Good morning, my name is Anthony McGrath. Thank you for joining us. In this issue, we examine the defining notion that animals do not have rights. Therefore, it is permissible to treat them in any manner, however cruel and unusual this might be. How large corporations are so concerned that we should not know the truth that they have had governments pass laws to prevent photographs from being taken at their facilities. They have done so because the depiction of cruelty is well understood by the vast majority of people. There are only a few to whom it is acceptable. It is unacceptable to beat a horse or any other animal to death in the open. But behind doors and for exploitation, it is deemed lawful and acceptable. The hydraulic bolt used to piece a cow's brain is even called a humane killer. The same argument was made for Acylon B gas, involved in genocide. All empires are built on the back of slave labor. Exploitation is baked in at the beginning and reinforced by social and cultural controllers. The first notion that is made is that animals do not have souls. Let's examine this. To do so, we have to define what is meant by soul. The dictionary definition is that the word soul means the immaterial essence, animating principle, or actuating cause of an individual life. 2. I. The spiritual principle embodied in human beings, all rational and spiritual beings, or the universe. What is the difference between soul and spirit? Your soul speaks of your inner life about your own experience, your mind, heart, will, and imagination. It also includes your thoughts, desires, passions, and dreams. But your spirit speaks of the same inner life about God, your faith, hope, love, character, and perseverance. While the concept of souls is deeply rooted in religious and philosophical beliefs, the question of whether animals possess souls is a matter of ongoing debate. Various cultures and religions have different perspectives on this matter, with some asserting that animals do have souls, while others maintain that only humans possess them. From a scientific standpoint, the existence of souls is not measurable or verifiable, making it a subjective and metaphysical concept. The concept of the 21 grams experiment has intrigued people for decades, capturing the imagination and sparking philosophical discussions about the existence and nature of the human soul. The experiment is often associated with the idea that the human soul weighs approximately 21 grams, based on the notion that the body loses a small amount of weight at the moment of death. This intriguing hypothesis has roots in a historical anecdote and has been the subject of both scientific and philosophical scrutiny. The origin of the 21-gram experiment can be traced back to Dr. Duncan McDougall, a physician from Haverhill, Massachusetts, who conducted a series of experiments in the early 20th century. In 1901, McDougall set out to explore the relationship between the soul and the body's weight by monitoring patients at the moment of death. His experiments involved placing dying patients on specially designed scales to measure any fluctuations in weight. Dr. McDougall's methodology was rudimentary by today's scientific standards, and his results were controversial. He claimed that he observed a weight loss of approximately 21 grams in 6 patients at the moment of death. McDougall interpreted this loss as evidence for the existence of the soul, suggesting that the departing soul had a measurable impact on the body's weight. However, the validity and reliability of McDougall's experiments were widely criticized. The small sample size, lack of controls, and the potential for errors in measurements raised significant doubts about the scientific rigor of his work. Furthermore, subsequent attempts to replicate his experiments did not produce consistent results, leading many to question the reliability of the 21-gram hypothesis. From a scientific perspective, the idea that the soul has a tangible mass that can be measured using conventional scales is problematic. The nature of the soul, if it exists, remains a philosophical and metaphysical question that transcends the scope of traditional scientific inquiry. Concepts such as consciousness, self-awareness, and the soul are complex and challenging to define in empirical terms. In the realm of animal cognition and behavior, researchers have made significant strides in understanding the complexity of emotions, social interactions, and self-awareness in certain species. For example, primates, including orangutans, exhibit behaviors that suggest a level of self-awareness and emotional depth. Orangutans, native to Southeast Asia, particularly in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, have been studied extensively for their intelligence, problem-solving abilities, and social structures. Dolphins and elephants have also been shown to be aware and have emotional and empirical intelligence. The legal and ethical aspects of animal rights also come into play when considering the question of whether animals have souls. Laws protecting animals vary worldwide, and some countries have made strides in recognizing animals as sentient beings with rights. Brazil, for instance, has made efforts to protect its diverse wildlife through legislation and conservation initiatives. But the specific legal status of animals in terms of having a soul would depend on cultural and religious beliefs, as well as the evolving understanding of animal welfare. An orangutan named Sandra, who spent 20 years in an Argentine zoo, is being moved to an animal sanctuary in the United States after being granted the same legal rights as humans. Lawyers won a landmark appeal for Sandra in 2014, arguing she was being detained in Buenos Aires illegally. The ruling found her to be Argentina's first non-human person with the right to liberty. Judge Elena Liberatori, who has a picture of Sandra in her office, told a P News agency she wanted her ruling to send a message that animals are sentient beings and that the first right they have is our obligation to respect them. Sandra was born in an East German zoo and sold to Buenos Aires in 1995. Ecuador was the first country in the world to recognize the rights of nature at the constitutional level. On deck. 2021, in what is hailed as a landmark ruling, the Constitutional Court applied the rights of nature provision to prohibit mining in the Los Cedros protected forest. Right now, people are fighting for the rights of an elephant living in USA in the Bronx Zoo. These sorts of actions may have profound effects on the zoo breeding business. Dolphins are cute, aquatic creatures that many human beings love to watch. Besides their playful and entertaining nature, they are also known to be one of the most intelligent animals. Some people are curious about their costs and even consider purchasing these large aquatic creatures. Baby dolphins cost almost $50,000, $100,000 approximately, and adult dolphins can cost over $200,000. Elephants are between $200,000 $500,000, and giraffes are $25,000 $75,000. Most zoos avoid issues by loaning or trading animals, but privately by speaking with curators. I have found that the values still apply. The general rule is still as it was for slavery. If the being in question can entertain us, feed us, or work for us, then it has value. It is this point that influences the argument the most profoundly. Do animals have souls? The post-Civil War era in the United States marked a period of profound social upheaval and change. While the abolition of slavery was a significant milestone, the ensuing years saw the emergence of various challenges, including the dehumanization of Black Americans. Religious groups, which played a pivotal role in shaping societal attitudes, were not immune to the prevailing prejudices of the time. The Reconstruction era, spanning from 1865 to 1877, was intended to rebuild the Southern states and address the social and economic rights of newly freed slaves. However, as political, social, and economic tensions escalated, religious groups became entangled in the evolving landscape of racial relations. During this period, certain religious leaders and denominations perpetuated ideas that dehumanized Black Americans. Some used biblical interpretations to justify racial inequality, with misinterpretations of Scripture reinforcing prejudiced views. The misuse of religious doctrines to uphold racial hierarchies became particularly evident in the so-called curse of Ham theory, a misreading of the Bible used to rationalize the enslavement and subjugation of African peoples. In the 15th century, Dominican friar Annius of Viterbo invoked the curse of Ham to explain the differences between Europeans and Africans in his writings. Annius, who frequently wrote of the superiority of Christians over the Saracens, claimed that due to the curse imposed upon black people, they would inevitably remain permanently subjugated by Arabs and other Muslims. He wrote that the fact that so many Africans had been enslaved by the heretical Muslims was supposed proof of their inferiority. Through these and other writings, European writers established a hitherto unheard of connection between Ham, Africa, and slavery, which laid the ideological groundwork for justifying the transatlantic slave trade. Moreover, segregation in churches, a practice known as Jim Crow Christianity, further deepened racial divisions. Black congregations were often relegated to separate, inferior spaces within churches, reflecting the broader societal segregation that persisted in many areas of life. This segregation reinforced the notion of a racial hierarchy, perpetuating the dehumanization of Black Americans within religious spaces. Thus it is with animals. While they remain without soul less than us, we can do whatever we want with them. The confusion between the concept of having a soul and intelligence has persisted throughout human history, intertwining philosophy, religion, and science. At the heart of this confusion is the challenge of defining and understanding these abstract notions. In religious contexts, the soul is often considered an eternal, immaterial essence that distinguishes living beings from inanimate objects. This concept is deeply ingrained in various belief systems, with interpretations varying widely. Some argue that the soul is the seat of consciousness and personal identity, while others see it as a divine spark connecting individuals to a higher realm. On the other hand, intelligence is commonly associated with cognitive abilities, problem solving, and learning. It is often measured through IQ tests and evaluated in terms of logical reasoning, linguistic proficiency, and spatial awareness. Unlike the soul, intelligence is usually perceived as a product of the brain's complex neural processes. The confusion arises when attempts are made to reconcile these two concepts. Questions like, can artificial intelligence possess a soul? Or is intelligence evidence of a soul? Highlight the intricate interplay between spirituality and cognitive abilities. Some argue that consciousness and self-awareness, often attributed to the soul, are key components of intelligent behavior. Philosophical debates delve into the nature of consciousness and whether it arises solely from physical processes or involves a metaphysical element like the soul. Dualism, as proposed by René Descartes, posits a separation between mind and body, suggesting that the soul governs the mind's conscious experiences. However, this perspective faces challenges in light of modern neuroscience, which seeks to explain consciousness as an emergent property of neural activity. In contemporary discussions on artificial intelligence, the question of whether machines can have a soul becomes relevant. As AI systems exhibit increasingly sophisticated cognitive abilities, ethical and existential dilemmas emerge. Can a machine possess consciousness or self-awareness akin to a soul? Or is its intelligence merely a complex set of algorithms responding to stimuli? The confusion intensifies as scientific advancements shed light on the neural correlates of consciousness. Studies exploring brain activity, neural networks, and the origins of self-awareness challenge traditional notions of the soul. The reductionist approach suggests that consciousness is an emergent property of the brain's intricate architecture, emphasizing physical processes over metaphysical entities. However, the human and animal experience is rich with subjective elements that extend beyond measurable intelligence. Emotions, creativity, and moral reasoning add layers to the discussion, prompting some to argue that the soul encompasses aspects of human existence that extend beyond cognitive functions. This perspective invites a more nuanced understanding of both the soul and intelligence. The brain has developed to be structured for spiritual experiences. There are organs in the brain such as the pineal gland and the syncytium, which process our connection to a wider field of energy. Many animals do not seem to have similar structures, but their absence does not mean that they are not connected in undiscovered ways. In conclusion, the confusion between the concept of having a soul and intelligence persists due to the multifaceted nature of these abstract notions. The interplay between religious, philosophical, and scientific perspectives creates a complex tapestry of ideas. As our understanding of consciousness and intelligence evolves, so too will the ongoing dialogue that seeks to unravel the mysteries of the soul and the nature of intelligent existence. In the wild, we would live in harmony with animals, feeding one another as required. The ebb and flow of the natural laws would be present. We might not like them, but that would be there. In a system dominated by a single species, the checks and balances normally present disappear. Can we evolve in such a fashion that we will behave well and with mutual respect and decency in the absence of enforcement of such rules? It is a sign of true maturity when we display and act upon the ability to do what is right and not what is easy. In our hearts, we know what is true and just for all living creatures. So the question should be not whether animals have souls, but do the people that are actively engaged in the wholesale slaughter and exploitation of another species, do they have souls? Thank you for listening, and if you would like to join the debate, visit our Facebook page and leave comments. Please consider liking and referring a friend to listen. The book V4 Vegan is available on Amazon with a book of recipes of the same name. Please join us every Thursday. You may not be able to change the world, however, When you change, the world changes around you. Until then.
This has been a production of Spirit Quest Publications, a division of Anthony and Mary Holistic Health Services, LLC. All rights reserved.